Obi needs to get down and do the real dirty work when it has to do with party, arranging the political party and trying to work and not stay by the side with the leader of the party, Seriake Dickson, and of course, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. I mean, for example, the challenges that they're having in Kano, it's not something that they should be having now. Kwankwaso has always been the reason why most of the parties that he belonged to win election, not because of the candidates he brings. So why would Kwankwaso be having problem, instead of being given the structures in Kano to take charge? When he brought the current governor in 2019, not so many people gave him any opportunity, but he made a very strong showing. And in 2023, he would then go ahead and become the governor.
Absolutely.
And it's all because of Kwankwaso. I know that he has his own troubles as a person. I mean, when Kwankwaso went into the APC, there were troubles there. He came back to the PDP, there were troubles. In fact, that's why he lost in his election in 2003. And Obasanjo had to accommodate him and all of that. But in that sense, that's where we expect Peter Obi to come in. This is leverage, because this is where we expect you to show political leadership in your party alongside Seriake Dickson. And I don't like the tone that is coming out of Seriake Dickson and the NDC trying to look like the Obedience are becoming a problem. I know that the Obedience have some form of this Zikist movement aura. If you know the Zikist movement between 1945 to 1950, they were this fierce,
very zealous.
Yeah, very zealous. That even Nnamdi Azikiwe himself, who this group was named after, had to call them down. In fact, he actually ensured that Zikist movement was disbanded because he said, if I'm your political leader and I give you orders and I ask you to work with others to make me win elections and you don't work, then it's working against my philosophy.
Indeed.
So if that is the situation, Peter Obi should know how to contain his own thing and then know when to support others to be able to have these basic primary problems resolved, because his problem is not the party. His problem is going to be Tinubu and then of course Atiku and all of that. So the real thing right now is that the NDC is not really known so much, and I would have thought that his strategy would have been just like he did in 2022, go around, look for some of the minorities that have lost tickets in APC and then in ADC, and then look for ways for NDC to give them tickets in minority areas. Since they can't get tickets, especially like the minorities in Gombe, the minorities in Borno, the minorities in Adamawa and all of that. Since they can't get tickets in the bigger political parties like APC and ADC, they would look for ways for NDC to give them tickets quickly. And it will become a strength for you. They will help market the NDC and then market you through the process. So I don't understand what's going on.
Well, let me put that to you, because the NDC has been marketed as a kind of fresh alternative, brimming with all these new ideas and what's going to happen and so on. And yet within weeks of its primaries, all we're hearing is moaning. Considerable moans coming from, I don't know if you know, Harry Potter moaning Myrtle. That's what we're hearing from them. Allegations of imposition, disputes over candidates, complaints about internal democracy. Is the NDC beginning to fray at the edges? Soon.
Sure. I would say it's a case of when things change, they remain the same. First, it's a story around these parties are just not new parties in terms of new ideas, new values, new vision. Whether it's NDC, ADC, the same transaction that characterize the politics, the same lack of coherence. And then I think, but the NDC has a problem. The problem is that Dickson is a very strong character, which is a good
Senator Seriake Dickson, who's the national leader of the party.
Which is a good thing, but which could be a bad thing in politics where you need flexibility around strategy. So there is also a sense in which I think they got overwhelmed by the influx. Arguably the fastest growing party today. They didn't quite have a strategy of how to do their own primaries. ADC, and when I say people say it's controversial, ADC are the best primary in terms of structure and organization. Even though, in my view, all the primaries fall far short of democratic primaries. But in terms of structure and process, you can see that structural thinking around whether it is Atiku people going to cash out primary for him was structured. The process was better. NDC didn't have that. Arguably because they don't even have the competition properly set up. But the problem they're failing now is that they should ride the momentum, and they are dematerialize their arrowhead. Now, the Obedience is something that people don't understand. In my view, Obedience is a main thing that's happened in Nigerian politics in the last 25 years. For one reason, a group that was disruptive, a group that brought mainstream some notion what Abiola's fight to poverty tried to conclude. So people look at Obedience and look at their obnoxious character. But the key thing is that they are challenging Nigerian politics in the status quo. So for NDC to create the impression that Obedience is a problem is that they should, like I said, should themselves. You need to unleash these people.
Indeed.
Because their focus should be winning party. So Dickson has a threshold of leading a party that could win an election, or ending up being a strong guy who basically owns his domain but loses the bigger game. So I think that strategic lack of vision is what is NDC suffering from right now.
That's a very good assessment. Let's move away from the NDC summit and talk about Atiku Abubakar. You mentioned this yesterday when you were doing your analysis. He's searching for a running mate. What does that decision tell us about, first of all, the state of opposition politics? Because he's going across the board, but he's also looking for competence, for electoral arithmetic, for regional balance, or is he simply looking for someone who will help him politically survive? You do the analysis for us.
He has to start with that, someone that will help him politically. Now, Atiku is boxed right now because of the INEC provisions. Unlike before, when any of these candidates will emerge, and then you can go outside and pick a technocrat who is not even a member of a political party to come and be your vice presidential candidate. Now, Atiku can't do that. He can only pick people who are members of the ADC now. Because if, for example, I mean, the search that we heard these people saying they wanted an Okonjo-Iweala or they wanted an Akinwumi Adesina and all of that, these are not members of the party. The party register has already been submitted to INEC, and the deadline was May 10th. And then, of course, it went way up to May 30th for the primaries and all of that. Now, if he's choosing someone, that person has to be a member of a political party, and it has to be a member of the political party that he has to choose from. So he has to choose from someone who is a serving member of the ADC. And so maybe that's why he's left to the choice of the Rotimi Amechi. And then, of course, you have like Dele Momodu. I mean, someone who has been following him around, someone who has some good political stature. I mean, he's our colleague as journalist. I mean, I've been seeing him around Atiku Abubakar. But then,
in fact, let me just make a revelation here too. I don't know if I hope he won't mind, but Dele Momodu was actually the person who whispered in Atiku's ears and got him to come and sit where you're sitting.
Oh, I mean, impressive. I mean, he has a whole lot of
influence. He's quite close to him, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get
electoral value is what Atiku will also be looking at.
Absolutely,
and then
that's a key point.
Yeah, and then you now look at someone who resonates with the youth, and then you look at Atiku Abubakar himself. In terms of political strategy, winning this election, what are we up against? In the last election, they had 12 states each. Now, there's a tendency we're going to go into a runoff this time around. So you need a deputy, a vice presidential candidate that's bringing not just electoral values, but that can go outside your political field and get more winners. We're going to have more first-time voters in this election. And you look at the number of youths, about 36 to 37 million that are up for grab between 18 to 35 years. And then by the time you add those who are between 35 to about 50, so you're going to have like about 50 to 55 million people. Now, any candidate that's able to tap into that quantum of voters and get just 2/3 of those voters will emerge victorious. So at this point in time, the strategy has to be open, but then the choices are limited because of the electoral timetable and then the provisions of the law. So Atiku Abubakar, I don't envy him, because the thing is that he has also put himself in a very difficult situation with the sort of politics that he played during the party primary election. But I've seen that he's been trying to, reconcile members. But
having played
the reconciliation is going to be pretty difficult, because look at Rotimi Amechi, for example. He said Atiku is unelectable. So if you now bring that person to be your vice presidential candidate, how is it going to be like? But then in terms of choice of Southerners that are left in the ADC, it's limited to these people and all of that. So it's a very difficult one, and I just hope that they are able to sort out their problems. And then the major challenge now is that you have an incumbent that knows all these people. So, but then you will need someone that can counter an APC.
Absolutely.
That's the advantage that Rotimi Amechi brings. He was DG twice of the Buhari presidential campaign. He was a former minister, former governor. So he knows the internal strategies of how to, counter whatever the APC may want to do. But he has his own downside. And I don't need to tell you what people from the other side of the ADC about him. So it's a house that's polarized.
That's a very, very interesting assessment. Dr. Amadi, what single quality would you advise Atiku to look for in a vice presidential candidate? Or more than one.
Elsewhere, we said that a vice presidential candidate is somebody who can represent the one. And that, in that case, I think, based on nominal experience, without looking at their ideas and quality, Amechi was above all, by virtue of being.
What about people like Emeka Ihedioha?
Now, come to that. Amechi has been vice president, has been speaker for years, chairman of speakers group, has been governor for 8 years, he has been minister. Emeka Ihedioha has been deputy senate president, significant experience, deputy speaker.
And he's been governor as well, even though for a short period.
That governorship is not known by law.
It's still very small compared to Amechi's experience. That's why I said nominal terms. This is what it is. But you have to look at the personality profile. For me, Emeka more stable, more strategic, and perhaps, in my view, perhaps a better choice in terms of governance. But again, you have to win the election. And people say we don't vote for VP, but that's not true in Nigeria. The vice presidential candidate should be able, in 2019, P2B helped Atiku campaign massively by bringing votes from the other side. So for me, the key quality will be someone who's stable, who's not going to drag you down. Because if you're going to carry garbage, or a baggage rather, you're going to drag down. You don't want a candidate who will drag you down.
But would it be strategically better for him to choose a candidate from either the southeast, the south-south, or the southwest?
Political computation. You look at first, do we have locked-in places, battleground states? Southeast is not a battleground state. So Southeast has the votes maybe compared, but again, that vote seems to be, kind of in a bucket. Very few, maybe 5-10% floating. Tinubu is going to make a strong beat in the Southeast because of he has the area of governors with him, desperate guys who are going to pull them.
And also in the South-South.
The South-South. But if you like, almost all the 5 governors are either working for him or somehow 1 or 2 still working for him. So, but the key point here is South-South is also a place that Tinubu is very strong. But the question then is, you have to look at the individuals now. Say, okay, who can steal some votes from either South-South? Who has
and
the pedigree?
Who can?
In my view, look, it's a loose way. It's like, I mentioned, for example, is weak in the South-South. The issues of Jonathan still will dog him. Wike is going to be brutal and has capacity to outwit him. Emeka Ihedioha, strong guy, but interestingly, Imo is one of those Peter Obi's strongest states in terms of
Right.
fervor and support.
Okay. Well, look, I'm almost out of time.
I think it's a
A
lose-lose.
last word from you on that point. Literally 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, what we'll say right now is that the strategy for winning would have to come from his decision to take a VP, because he would actually prefer someone who is younger, who resonates more with the youthful population, because he has the NDC to battle with,
Right.
and the APC is the incumbent, and then of course it's almost like the superstructure at the moment. So whoever he does settle for will have to be someone who doesn't have so much baggage, so that it doesn't bog him down.
Right, okay.
But for right now, I can tell you that I don't envy Atiku Abubakar.
it's a
That
difficult
choice
task.
will eventually tell the direction
Indeed.
of how his campaign
Someone-
Any choice
I
you
want to
take,
thank
men
you.
are
We're hearing claims that Peter Obi is facing resistance in parts of the north. Is this simply the normal turbulence that every opposition candidate faces, or is there a deeper political obstacle confronting Mr. Obi?
Okay, two ways to look at it. One is political strategy and propaganda. I mean, this is the period. So we're going to have a lot of messaging that are contrived to drive political outcomes. So if you see somebody say, oh, he has a resistance, it might mean that they are saying it's not sellable. But again, we could also say that there will be some resistance, especially with the post 2023 toxicity issues around. I mean, I've seen some people AI-directed stories around, or he issued ID card to Northerners, which came out to be that it was Rochas Okorocha at a particular time. So some people are driving narratives that ordinary persons, maybe in the North, would feel, wow, this is what it is.
Yeah.
We expect that when the campaign comes, I was called to someone off camera that, look, we're going to expect a huge moments of hate speeches, of very, very scandalous.
It's going to be pretty
with
vitriolic, isn't
AI.
it? Yeah.
So in a sense, you can two ways. Yes, it's possible. Again, look at also his performance in 2023 election. That's not a strong forte. He has to work harder. And I guess the strategic choice of Rabi Kwankwaso is a recognition that Peter's most urgent need is to expand his electoral map across northern Nigeria, and that's going to be difficult with Atiku, with all the issues, but it's what political heroism is made of. So as we walk down, we see how well it is, and again, sadly, we don't do a lot of polling. I mean, what would probably start with a poll now, and say 6 months or 3 months, how has messaging,
Yes.
if people get to know more about this character, if people get to see him and understand the messaging, what shifts, what moves. So for now, we're going to be stuck with optics, driven more by political narratives, and not really
That's a
plumb
good
into the
point.
depth of this resistance.
Something we had yesterday on this program, the National Publicity Secretary of the Arewa Consultative Forum, and he was making the point that all the presidential candidates, as far as he's concerned, have lost traction in the north because the opposition, the messaging, as Dr. Sam put it, is not getting through, and the actions of the ruling party and the president are not getting through either. But let's just finish that bit about Peter Obi. How much is it about he himself? And how much is it about the fact that the NDC, his party, is still a relatively new political platform, trying to build structures in territories where basically it never existed before?
Thanks, Charles. Like I had always counseled in the past few weeks while doing my analysis, Peter